Okay, we have Luke Kuechly on the program. This is our Valentine's Day show. If you ever wondered what a perfect Valentine's Day looks like to Luke Kuechly, every girl in my DMs does whenever I post him on my Instagram. Mr. Kuechly is here to break down the game. We're going to get into some off-season storylines, and then Robert Mays is going to join us. He is absolutely brilliant, and we've got like quarterback roulette going on in the NFL. Cannot wait to talk about him and maybe the Bears. Maybe we'll fix the Bears. Who knows? Here we go. Robert Mays of The Athletic joining the program. Luke Kuechly hanging out as well. We're going to do shows next week, which is very, very exciting. We're going to be in Austin next week. The Suns are playing the Spurs at UT. FanDuel is going to be doing and involved in some like business, women's panel-y stuff that I'm so lucky and fortunate enough to be invited to partake in. So we're going to be in Austin. Any guest requests? I think we're out to like Baker Mayfield. I'd love to talk to him. Sark, Matthew McConaughey, Charles Amenahu. I know lives down there. We're trying to get the best guests in person for our big Austin show next Thursday. So look forward to that. Look forward to the Combine, which I know nothing about. It's tabula rasa. It is a blank slate of nothingness in my head that I cannot wait to build upon and invite you guys to come along on the ride. We've got, of course, the parade happening tomorrow, getting you set for the Eagles. It was such an honor to talk to Cooper DeJean yesterday. Just rookie hero, the most laid-back, unassuming, understating, yet confident, walks the line perfectly kid turned man that we've ever had on the show, I think, in that position with the pick six and the dream come true. And, of course, the thing he lit up about the most was the thought of sort of being the superhero at this parade. And I thought my favorite part, and it's one that Philly fans grasped onto right away, was him saying, man, I'm so lucky that I won this in Philly. I'm so glad that I wouldn't want it anywhere else with this fan base. And it's kind of a beautiful lesson. I mean, he went in the second round. He admitted he wasn't super happy with being taken there. You feel like he felt like he fell. I'm sure that drove him a little bit. His dad embracing him after the game, after he was very emotional after the pick six, and he saw footage with that and saying, and bringing up the draft right away and saying, this is where you were meant to be. And look at you now. I went back and watched their embrace after the draft, and he like hugged his mom. He held on to his mom for a really long time and then hugged his dad. So those are the kind of storylines that we are loving this, I guess, now off-season turned Combine in just a week from now. So let's dig into some of these headlines and things that we're going to get to. Interesting stuff going on. Steelers, hard inquiry into trading for Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback. Very weird to have the Steelers not have their quarterback position shored up, right? This is like, I think quarterback consistency, I think Packers, and I think Steelers. And they got to figure some things out with Tomlin and some of these pieces. And if they go get a great quarterback, whether it's a veteran like a Stafford or a Rodgers, or they hit the draft or whatever, like, is that enough? What else do they have to do? What other pieces are needed for them to contend and take out some of these AFC contenders that are battling them every year? Let's talk about some storylines here. The Chiefs, of course, they took it on the chin in the Super Bowl. They're going to be the team, though, so everybody is gunning for in the AFC. The early odds on FanDuel show that they are the favorites in that conference. But there's been something of a running theme this week that the Eagles exposed something of a formula. Chris Collinsworth said it. Dwight Freeney said it. And I like the way that Chris summed it up. Take a listen.
So the formula is now known, right? And anybody that can do it, it's the same way the Giants beat Tom Brady back in the Super Bowl with a four-man rush. They could get legitimate, quick pressure and play 7 people in coverage. I think it's the only way you can beat a great quarterback.
Easier said than done, I'm sure. Otherwise, we'd see every other team trying and succeeding and having that kind of success against the great quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes being the greatest among them. But it got us thinking here on the show, like, who can do that? I was getting texts from different segment producers and Hamilton, of course, like, in talking to him and Dwight Freeney. And we'll talk to Kuechly about this too. Like, who can pull it off? Like, who's built that way? Is everyone built that way? What are the pieces needed? And it's fun when you've got these pieces like Max Crosby, very vocal right now, really in his bag about what he personally wants and the greatness and the success that he wants. Myles Garrett also sort of looking inward and saying, I want to succeed. I want to be on a team that can do that kind of damage to the Chiefs and company and be a Super Bowl winner. If you look at the sort of obvious low-hanging AFC contenders, the Bills, the Ravens, et cetera, sure, they can maybe do that. But one team that I think can pull off the Eagles' vibe is Denver. Because you talk about the formula, the ability to get pressure with 4, to hold up in coverage, a team that's got the Defensive Player of the Year in the secondary, a DPOY finalist up front, Nick Bonito. They fit the bill, okay? And the Broncos, they have a little money to play with this offseason. Russell's working his way off the books. By the way, insane that they were so successful and the most expensive person on their team was playing for somebody else. What they were able to do is insane, okay? And I don't know if they could land on Myles Garrett. Can Sean Payton sit down and reel him in, give him some Jordans? I don't know. This top 5 defense might jump up to top 2 if they make the right moves. What about the Joker role we talked to Coach about? Does Debo fit that role? We're seeing the rumors percolate about that. So a lot of good things going on in Denver. And whether it's in the trade market, whether it's in free agency, you know, we heard Coach talk about the buckets, the bucket of a want, a need, and a must-have. He knows what he's doing, and he's digging in, and he's got, and the culture is set. A lot of the things that he had to deal with to establish where they are in the past 2 off seasons. One was cut short. He just got the gig. Last season, he went all the way in. Like, I can only, this is going to be the biggest jump that we see out of Denver in this AFC West. They're going to go all in. It's a window. They got Bo, rookie deal, and they've made things tough on Kansas City over the last 2 years. Sean Payton, one of the few people you can sort of talk to and say, how do you have such success against Patrick and company? It's my belief, and I have faith, that this Broncos team is one great offseason away from true AFC domination / contention. I think they're already contenders in the conference. They showed that last year. It's a little early to be talking about this stuff, but I've just been thinking about it. Who is built to this formula that Chris Collinsworth's talking about, and it's them. If we want to stay in the AFC West, big show today, guys. Luke Kuechly on the program, Robert Mays of The Athletic here to break down everything. I want to get into Max Crosby, who I mentioned, okay? The trade chatter sort of started heating up Wednesday. Friend of the show, Keyshawn Nixon, out there. Do we have that tweet? Do we have the Keyshawn tweet? I know. Do we have it, though? I saw this. There's a lot of reports. Yeah. Yo, Tay, pull back up. Nothing I love more than this. Nothing I love more than the recruiting happening at the center of the draft universe. Like, sure, like the Super Bowl was handed from New Orleans to San Francisco. We're not going to talk about that for the next year. All eyes are on Green Bay, Draft Central, and also how do we become a contender central? All the stuff's going on. You know, they want Max Crosby. Packers do. A lot of fans making those connections. He wants to be great. How many pieces are they away? Let's take a listen to what Max Crosby had to say about his future.
For me, I want to win. No matter what, like, I'm an ultimate competitor. I want a chance. And I don't want to join the damn Chiefs and get a Super Bowl. That would mean absolutely nothing to me. I want to join, you know, if I want to be a part, not join, start controversy. I want to be a part of winning in a culture that is about winning. And that's all that matters to me. At the end of the day, like, I want to be in the Hall of Fame, and I want to go, and I want to.
And you deserve it, and you shouldn't feel bad about doing what you want to do.
No, absolutely.
And I love that for you.
I don't feel bad about it. I want to be a Super Bowl champ and a Hall of Fame.
Raiders fans are so mad at me, as if I'm the reason the Raiders are in this position, as if I have any influence over these guys. I'm always going to come out and be for the player. The player should do what feels good. Players care about fans and what they think. You think Max Crosby doesn't care about Raiders fans? He lives for Raiders fans. He wishes he could do his thing there. He has tried. He's put his body on the line. Every time I see Max Crosby, he's got a limp. He's dealing with something. He's got a boot. He's trying to recover. That's a dude who wants to be the best at what he does, and that is a dude who would love to do that there with the Raiders. And somebody who's throughout his career always remained loyal. It's very mirrored by like the Myles Garrett thing. Like, of course you want to do it where you were drafted, where you are, the people who love you. He loves those fans, but at a certain point, like Raiders fans, you got to look in the mirror and look inward at what the organization wasn't able to do. And it's a time, the Raiders are going to be great yet again. Bringing in Tom Brady, bringing in some of these pieces. We'll see what the quarterback situation shakes out. I'm rooting for Raiders fans. But when it comes to what is important in these short windows, you cannot blame players for doing what is right by them and wanting to cement their legacy, something that they've been thinking about. And they get claps every time they walk in as 5-year-olds to a cafeteria at school because they are the best at their position and they work so hard to do what they do. There's some craziness going on here. Let's see. Raiders fans, and I do get being frustrated. Some of the tweets that we've gotten about just this interview. Look at Austin. Let's go through Austin. No more interviews with her, please. She's the biggest instigator ever. She will try to get you off the Raiders every chance she gets. I have no personal vendetta against the Raiders, everybody, but I do think Max Crosby deserves to be happy. I think Davante Adams deserves to be happy. They weren't happy there, and I appreciate the boldness that it takes to sort of stand up for yourself and want to be in a situation that is better for you. How about this one? And you tried to tamper with Raiders organization relations and personnel. Mark Davis should be suing you for the Davante situation, and even you attempting to do the same to Max. We need real analysts in this business. And finally, who's this one from? Stay the F away from Raiders players, you Jezebel. I'm a witch. We get it. I have so much power. I have so much power, guys, here in making these moves. In a serious note, and I'd actually talked to some people who work for the Raiders about this. It's a rebuild. It's, if you are a player that is seeing their window and their body and are at the peak of performance, you are allowed to have desires and wants and follow that. And I actually think it takes a lot of courage to say that and stand up for yourself and do that. And Davante Adams did that. And you can say all you want about what the decision was and how it wasn't better with the Jets. Guess what? I know you don't want to hear this. It was better for him. It was better for him. He made the right decision. And Max Crosby, and Myles Garrett, we never thought that, those were the things that were going to happen. But it's not a failure on Max Crosby's part. It's a failure of the situation he's in at the time that it's in. The Raiders, great organization. They're going to be great. But these are not ideas being planted in anyone's head. These are well thought out ideas of wanting to be part of a culture that is about winning right now. And that is not Vegas of late. It's building. It's happening. Max is 27. He's gone through a relocation. He's on his 5th head coach, his 4th GM, and likely 8th different starting quarterback of his NFL career already. That's going to take some time that he maybe doesn't feel like he has. And I hope he feels good about what Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and new GM Spy Tech are going to do. And they'll probably make it very attractive for him to stay. I think those conversations are ongoing. But we cannot blame Max Crosby if he does decide to pursue or at least leave his ears open to an opportunity that is somewhere else. I would love for him to be successful, and that's where I'm coming from in the matter. With him, with Davante, with T, with everyone. Okay, we're going to take a short break here. We've got Robert Mays on the program. How does he feel about the Max Crosbys and Myles Garrett? What are good positions, good landing spots? Yes, our guy Luke Kuechly is with us after this. Jezebel. It's my favorite one. Kel, people really think that I'm trying to get them to leave the Raiders. I would just ask, whenever anything happens, what's the intention? What would be my win in that?
Well, it's funny because
This is Cal Filson, by the way.
Hi, guys. How we doing?
Woohoo! What do you think?
Well, it's funny because you're the one who's bringing people to Green Bay, and they're thinking you're making people leave Vegas. So really,
I'm just doing the
what's the
Green
deal?
Bay thing. The intention is my nephews. I got 2
Right.
nephews that live in Appleton, Wisconsin, who, I'm doing their bidding. I'm asking them which players Evan and Sebastian want, and then I'm like, okay, I got you. But I mean, Davante's going to Green Bay, in my head. And in my head, Davante was going to the Jets, and I was right about that. So I guess I am a Jezebel and a witch. But I just want, I think Davante back to Green Bay gives them something they need. We talked to Jordan Love about it. What a veteran would bring to that locker room. I'm not saying they're too young. I'm not saying, but I don't know. I don't know if the not having a wide receiver one worked for them. There's an argument to be made that it did not.
I think you wanted to see the progress and improvement out of Jayden Reed this year, and you got some of it. You just need a true X receiver. I'm not sure Jayden Reed's a true X receiver. No disrespect to him. He's fantastic, but better with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
Devontae's the guy who can get off the line of scrimmage, work with, press corners. He's the guy who's going to win you those third and must-haves. You know what I mean? Like, that's the guy that Jordan Love needs to go to.
He was balling.
Yeah.
Okay, and they were not great. Did he have 1,000 yards this year? He did.
I'm not sure that he did.
He didn't?
I'm not sure that he did.
Those final games were amazing. I know he wishes the season was longer. I think the coolest part about the Devontae thing is...
No.
He did not?
He did it right over. Just
he
over.
He did,
1063.
yeah. Cal,
1063 and 8.
When I know something of that football-y over you, that we got to get in the gym. What I was going to say is I just think the coolest part about the Devontae is how much Green Bay fans embrace it. Like, he left the Raiders, and Raiders fans are really sour on him. But he left the Packers and went for what was important to him at the time. Something I also don't know that he regrets. I don't think that that's how he lives his life. But the fact that he left there and that he would be welcomed back with such open arms, I think is one of the coolest. It has to be the coolest feelings for Adams because there's no love lost.
Right, no, absolutely. And those Midwestern people, they're very nice. they have open arms, they're loving. They would welcome him back.
They
Obviously,
would.
he's
Well, Keyshawn Nixon, I mean, saying like openly, Josh Jacobs openly saying, Jordan Love basically openly saying he only dropped 3 passes the entire time I was with him. Like, there's something there, and I hope Goody is on it because I will be on the first flight to Green Bay or Appleton to figure it out. Okay, love that. Okay, let's bring in Luke.
I think there's some Luke chants here in the stadium. Kuechly, you are beautiful. That man's a tackling machine. Luke Kuechly, what more can you do?
My next guest, a 5-time first-team All-Pro linebacker, Panthers radio analyst, smartest man in football, and the most elusive. How did I not see you last week, Luke Kuechly, in New Orleans?
There was a lot going on out there, wasn't there? It was fun. I still get uncomfortable going to New Orleans. That's enemy territory down there, and then have this Super Bowl at the old Mercedes-Benz Superdome. A lot of good games down there against Drew Brees and Sean Payton and that Saints team. So familiar with New Orleans, but I can't say that it's my most comfortable place in the world.
Sean Payton was going on and on about you. I'll have to send it to you. Just like you two have such reverence for each other. I feel like we should start a podcast between the two of you. And there was a world where I was sitting there with Cam Jordan, obviously, and Mark Ingram. There was a world there that you might have ended up on that team if he could have his way, which I thought would be pretty wild. But we had a good time in New Orleans. I would like to know who you saw outside of Greg Olsen that was sort of the person you were excited to run into.
Yeah, so I saw Greg. Ryan Khalil was down there, had lunch or breakfast with Coach Rivera. Saw Peanut Tillman, Roman Harper. Obviously got to see Cam at Radio Row. So I love going down there. I walked into the hotel and Brian Urlacher was in there, a guy that I grew up watching. So that's half the fun of going to Super Bowl is you see all those guys, you walk around. It's guys that you played with that you don't get to see all the time, but for me, the guy that I loved watching growing up among a couple guys was Urlacher. So I got to see him in the hotel lobby, and that's always cool.
Love that. Okay, let's get to the Super Bowl because you've had a bunch of days to unpack this right now. I think you were back home, hopefully on the couch, hopefully, doing whatever you do for Super Bowl. What impressed you about these Eagles, who you weren't 1,000% co-signing a couple weeks ago?
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I said that the Rams are going to beat them, and then I said the Commanders are going to beat them, and then I said, hey, you can't root against Mahomes. So obviously, I was 0 for 3 the past couple weeks, so all the Eagles fans are killing me, and I guess I had to kind of eat it a little bit, but that's fine. But I think that pass rush was relentless, and the amount of pressure that they put on them, both edge guys, Nolan Smith and Josh Sweat, the inside push they had, Brandon Graham coming back for the Super Bowl. It was just, there was nowhere for Mahomes to go the whole game. I felt like their timing was off. There was a couple third downs where, they're sitting in zone coverage. It's an easy little Kelsey turnaround. I'm going to put it right on your chest. And it just wasn't happening. And it's unique to see that with Mahomes and that offense and not being on the same page. But I think a lot of it had to do with the edge pressure they got. And they got the two inside big Georgia guys. Jalen Carter obviously is a menace inside. I think they sat back and said, hey, we're going to play 4-man rush. We're going to get there. And then our secondary, the 7 guys in the back end that we've talked about all year, stepped up and made the plays when they needed to.
How are you looking at Jalen Hurts now?
I think Jalen Hurts, as the game was going on, I think he knew exactly what he needed to do. And I think what I'm getting at is that, look at this pocket that he got for this touchdown to A.J. Brown. But I think it goes back to when Jalen was even at Alabama, when they put Tua in that game and Jalen came out, he didn't sulk, he didn't sit on the sidelines. He understood that this game is bigger than me. It's more about the team. And I think this game it showed a little bit of that. It was, hey, we're up big. It's 24-0 at halftime. Let's lean on the run game, even though it wasn't super effective. And then when we need you to make big plays, go make big plays. Obviously, the first third down that got called back to A.J. Brown, it was a 4th down play. Great throw. The ball to Devontae Smith. Great throw. A.J. Brown, that crossing route. Great throw. When they needed him to make the big plays with his arm, he did. And then he was equally as effective with his legs. But I don't think he went into this game and said, I need to prove anything to anybody. It was more, I want to win this game for me. I want to win this game for my team. I want to win this game for all of our fans. And whatever that takes, whether it's big or small, I'm going to go do. So I think, you give him a lot of credit for understanding the situation and saying, hey, when my number gets called, I'm going to play really well. And other than that, I'm going to stick inside this game plan and make this a win for us.
He seems to have no ego. And even on the sideline, as they're winning, as they're about to close it out, and he's with Saquon, he just goes, it's you. To Saquon, and Saquon goes, no, it's you. And he goes, no, but you were the missing piece. You're what we needed. Like, not every quarterback operates that way. And I think it does sort of set him aside. But the first thing, when we started playing those highlights, you go, look at that pocket he has. Like, the world right now is saying he should be looked at as a top 5 quarterback. Is he in your top 5 at quarterback?
I think so. The guy, all they do is win. All they've done the last couple of years is win games. Obviously, the end of last year, they struggled a little bit, but you look at his career, he's a winner. He wins games. He gets to the playoffs. They win the division. He's won a Super Bowl. He's a Super Bowl MVP. I think that top 4 at that position is pretty well set. And then I think guys move in and out of that top 5 based on whatever year. And you can look at his season. He deserves to be among the top quarterbacks in the NFL because of what he's able to do with his feet, what he's able to do with his arm. I think he's humble, like you said. He doesn't do anything just to prop himself up. And I think this Super Bowl was a great example of that.
What surprised you most watching this game? Like, what were, the way you anticipate things, the way you thought it was going to go, what was the big surprise?
I was surprised with the Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball. They just weren't really able to get anything going in that second half, the first half. And the second half, the game got away from them a little bit, and it's easier to throw the ball around in the second half when you're up big. If you're the Eagles, you're trying to just limit explosive plays. But I was surprised about how difficult it looked for them on the offensive side of the ball. Just sometimes it didn't look like they were on the same page. They were missing things. They were getting home with 4-man rush on the Philadelphia side of the ball. They just looked out of sorts a little bit. And you showed the Collinsworth clip of him saying, you got to get there with 4. And yeah, you'd love to get there with 4, but that pass rush that they had was a special 4. Those guys got there consistently, and the guys in the back end on that Philadelphia Eagles defense, 2 interceptions, knocking balls down. It's not like they have, average Joes back there. Yeah. It's all pros, it's Pro Bowlers, it's really high-end players that make that whole defense go.
Who can do this? Do you subscribe to the idea that there's a formula a la Dwight Freeney, a la Chris Collinsworth? Who can do this? And is it easier said than done? Like you're saying what they did with 4, but it's also a special 4. So I'm trying to get to, I guess, the exclusivity, the rarity of this thing.
Well, I just think you can rush 4, but how good are you in the back end? And we always talked about front end coverage. Your coverage helps the rush, and your rush helps the coverage. And if you have a really good front, like the Eagles did in this game, like they've had all season, it makes coverage easier. And then on the other side, you look at that Eagles secondary from DeJean, the Darius Slay, to the rookie, to Blankenship, to Gardner Johnson, to what Bond was able to do this whole year. You can't, it's almost like who was better, the pass rush or the guys in the back end, the back seven? And so is it an easy recipe? Yeah, rush 7, play zone, mix it up, play 2-4-1, maybe sprinkle some man. But if you don't have the guys that can get there and you don't have the guys in the back end that can cover, you're in tough shape. But I kind of agree with you a little bit. I think Denver's got some guys that can do it. Obviously, Surtain won, Defensive Player of the Year, which he 100% deserves. And you look at another group is Houston with Donnell Hunter and Will Anderson.
Yeah.
If they can find a good guy on the inside of that defense to push the pocket, I think they've got a chance. But that's what Philly does so well is they've got guys off the edge and then Jalen Carter on the inside pushing that pocket vertically. If you've got edge guys that are really good and that quarterback can step up and step out and there's no inside threat, it's easy. But if you have 2 edge guys that are monsters and an inside guy, it just all works together.
It's like, I'm looking back now, and I know we had this like discourse and then it went crazy on Twitter and people were like, you hate the Eagles, you whatever. Like, it is, I mean, looking back, of course they were going to win. Like, of course they were the best team. Like, we're looking at, like, do you have any of that where you're like, yeah, like, top to bottom? I made the case yesterday just because of the dominance, even just in these past 2 playoff, I mean, the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. And, when they did have Jalen healthy, AJ healthy out there, like, they were undefeated, basically. I made the case that they're a top 5 Super Bowl team all time. Like, do you feel that way about this team, sort of looking back at the way you looked at them now and after now the Super Bowl?
I think that run they went on at the end of the season, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it came from a lot of the doubt, I think, came from, Jalen got hit, missed a couple games. Then when he came back, he was just trying to get back in the flow again. And then, once they got past the Rams and they put it on the Commanders pretty good. And then, you saw what happened in the Super Bowl. They, to me, were going into that game the best roster. They were big up front. They were physical. They have 2 really good outside receivers. Dallas Goedert's a good tight end. And we've talked a ton about their defense today. My one hesitation, it was just like I mentioned with Brady and guys like Mahomes, they're never out of a game. They don't show up to a game out of the game. And then as the game went on, it kind of, that defense just took over and they're out of it. But I think roster-wise, they had the best roster in the NFL. I know Howie Roseman's getting a lot of credit for putting that together.
Yeah, let's talk about the Chiefs and Veach. I mean, this is a tough offseason. They got to figure some things out. I'm sure heard the things that Travis Kelce was saying. They've got like a lot of questions at receiver, who's available, who's not dealing with off-the-field stuff. They've got a lot going on here. But when you look at the offensive line from your disruptive standpoint and how you would maybe reconfigure it or whatever, people want to blow this thing up, okay?
Yeah.
So here's some free agents, but when it comes to the O-line specifically, what would you change or maneuver?
I think you look at Trey Smith, obviously, he's a free agent. You'd love to have him back. He's a big part. Creed Humphreys, really good player. I think Thuney sliding him back inside to play guard would be super beneficial for him. And then the question that they've always had in Kansas City is who's going to play tackle for us? They slid Thuney outside. That's not his natural position. Puts him in a tough spot. You'd love to have him play guard, and then you're really solid inside. And that's kind of, look what the Saints did with Drew. They had 3 solid inside guys, and then they drafted really well on the perimeter at tackle. So I think if you're the Chiefs, you'd love to get Smith back, and then you want to make sure that you're really good on the edges because that's where a lot of that pressure came in this Super Bowl was off the edge. But then you always go back and said they've been to 3 straight Super Bowls. They got the best quarterback in the NFL. They'll find a way to make it happen. But good situation this offseason. Can they find somebody to play outside tackle?
So you're saying don't blow it up. They've got good stuff. They got just a couple tweakments and they can figure it out. Love that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to bet against them. It's hard to say, like, obviously with Patrick Mahomes, who is 29 years old, that they won't find their way back there, especially with just the consistency and the confidence in winning. But you've lost a Super Bowl. Sorry to bring it up.
Oh, good.
This loss was like the worst possible loss. Stunning if you're the Chiefs. Does the caliber or the quality of loss affect them differently? Obviously, they lost at Tampa, but this was people are getting tattoos that say "belt to ass." That is the stamp of this Super Bowl. What does the kind of loss do to the Chiefs as somebody who's lived through a loss yourself?
Well, I think they've been through a loss. They've been through, obviously 3 wins. They know what it feels like on both sides. And, I think for them, they've played a lot of football, the last 3 years. You play a couple playoff games that, I don't know what it is, 12 or 13 more games that they've had to play than everybody else. It's almost a full season. So I think for them, they've been there, they've done it. They've got great coaches. They have great players. Like you said, Mahomes is 29.
This
I don't
isn't
think
different.
It matters.
This isn't different a little bit. No, it doesn't.
I don't think so. I think these guys come in. It's going to suck. Obviously, the next couple weeks are miserable for them. But I think they come back in OTAs and tell themselves, we're the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got the best quarterback. We've got one of the best head coaches in the NFL. We know what we need to do to help ourselves out. I thought they played pretty well for the most part on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Nick Bolton's a free agent. But like I said, they have to figure out the skill positions. A lot of those guys are free agents. Obviously, Rashee Rice, you don't know what's going to happen with that. But I think he was a big part. I think Pacheco's back. We'll see what happens with Kelsey. You move Thuney back inside. Mahomes is back. They just have to find tackles and find some guys in the perimeters with the free agents they have coming up.
And hopefully they do. There's some free agents on the Eagles side too. I'm just gonna, you love Zach Bond. I'm just gonna let you let it rip here. Time for the weekly Kuechly, not for the meekly, probably pretty geekly and awesome moment of genius. Luke, what was the smartest thing you saw in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, we're going to talk about our guy, Zach Bond, again, the interception before half. I think it was a backbreaker for the Chiefs. They have the ball. They've got a minute 48. They're down 17-0. If they go down and get points, they get the ball coming out after half, they can cut it to a 1-score game, and they're right back in it. But, just great catch by Zach Bond. You go back and watch this play. Obviously, phenomenal catch, full extension. That pass rush was unbelievable. Nolan Smith shoots across Patrick Mahomes' face, clouds his vision, and then Josh Sweat backs Thuney right into Mahomes. He gets hit. It's the epitome of that Eagles defense in that game. The Super Bowl was that play. Great pass rush, great coverage, guys making plays. You can have great rush, you can have great coverage. If you don't make the play, then it's 2nd and 10 and no one cares.
Yeah.
But Zach Bond caught the ball, secured it, great pass rush, and then the best part is they went down and scored. That's when they threw that ball to A.J. Brown on that over route for the touchdown. So everything that they needed to happen, they capitalized and made the plays. Pass rush was great. Bond makes a great pick. Then they go score a touchdown before half, and it's 24-0 going into halftime. The game's kind of over.
I think Bond's a free agent. I believe Sweat's a free agent. Can you look that up? I think Josh, is he? Yeah, Josh Sweat's a free agent as well. So these guys are making themselves some money. You love to see it as far as what they looked like out there. When did you know it was over? Because it's always hard with Mahomes, right? I'm in the stadium. It felt over the second I walked in, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. But what was the moment you were like, whether it was by the gameplay or the body language, when did you know?
I think, they go down 24-0 at halftime. They go into half. You're like, all right, here's a huge drive coming out after half. I think they went 3 and out and punted it away. And you're like, dang. And then Philly goes down. I think they might have kicked a field goal. It just, that to me was like, dang. They went inside. They made their adjustments. They had their pump-up talk. They got everybody on the same page. They had the long halftime to kind of get themselves back going again and then go out with the ball to start the second half. I'm like, this is Mahomes. Get him going down the field, and then they punt, and then Philly goes out and scores again. It's just, that's kind of, to me, was like, dang, this game might be over. Yeah,
it was a bit shocking. Not that the Eagles won, but the way that they won and how dominant they looked and how Patrick Mahomes just did not look like himself from the first second in the first set of downs there. The only thing more shocking than the way the Super Bowl played out was that I cannot believe that you are not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I know you're not going to want to talk about this.
I know.
I was stunned. I really was. I was at honors. I was ready. I literally had, the bottle of champagne and a little party hat ready to take down to pull out from under my chair. When did you find out? When did you find this out?
Oh man, it might have been a week or so beforehand.
Luke!
You gotta keep you on pins and needles,
You lied to me. Luke Kuechly, you lied to my face. You're a good actor.
It was, you know what? You look at that class, and I've talked about it. I got to play with, play with Jared Allen. That was super cool for me. When you grow up playing football, you're always thinking of the guys that you'd love to play with. So Jared Allen was a guy that I never had a chance to play with. I always watched him from afar. You kind of knew his last year was going to be in Chicago. And then we traded for him like week 4 or 5, I think it was like week 3 in 2015, the Super Bowl year. So that was awesome to get to play with him. That guy's got more stories, can drink coffee, can hang in a training room. He's awesome on the team playing because he can play cards, he can have fun, he can tell stories. He's awesome. And then Antonio Gates was a guy that I grew up watching. Him and Phillip Rivers, played against him and Phillip at Qualcomm my rookie year. And then Sterling Sharp and all those guys, they deserve to be in there, And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's less about like, oh, hey, you didn't get in. It's more about like, look at the guys that did get in, that deserve it. And I don't know, I think it's cool. And especially guys like Eric Allen that had such a great career and had to wait so long to get in. You look at his stats and it's like, this guy, all this guy did was play forever and intercept every ball that came his way. So those guys deserve to get in, and just kind of see what happens.
I mean, Deion Sanders vocal about you being snubbed. I'm sure you heard that. Who else did you hear from? Any Hall of Famers? Any advice? Any words?
No, just a lot of people saying, hey, I'm sorry it didn't work out. I'm like, guys, it's fine. It's.
I don't think you should say that, Luke. Luke, I think if you say that, like, I mean, I'm actually.
You want to be angry?
No,
be angry.
I know. You'd never be angry, and you're happy for everyone. And what you're saying, I agree with. I think it, like everyone else deserves it. But I do think if you don't say that you want in, it's not like. I think you should care. Like I think like, oh, it's okay. I'm not in. Like, no, you want in, don't you, Luke? You want in.
Oh, I think you showed the clip of Max Crosby. He said it best. I want to win a Super Bowl and I want to go into the Hall of Fame. So yeah, it would be awesome. And your time will come if it comes. And if whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
You handle it perfectly. I literally cannot believe that you lied to me, Luke. I actually cannot.
I never lied. I said
you sat here and you knew that you weren't a first, which means Eli also lied to me and knew that he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. And now I know all the behind the scenes tricks. Amazing. Love talking to you. What are you doing for Valentine's Day, Luke Kuechly?
Trying to figure that out. That's a game plan. I got to figure that out. I got one day to figure out what I'm going to do.
Go get to it. Flowers, candy, all the things. We love it.
Flowers, ice cream, cookies.
Oh my God, ice cream, cookies. You're a dream. There we go. I love Valentine's Day. Luke Kuechly, happy Valentine's Day to you and your loved ones, whatever. And we will talk to you down the line. And thanks for the breakdown. You're the best. You're the best.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
See ya. We'll be back with Robert Mays after this. Cannot believe I'm sitting there at Honors thinking I'm going to do a standing ovation, and Luke Kuechly could have warned me, and it didn't happen. Cal, I took you to Honors.
You did. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
I told Cal 20 minutes before he was going. I don't even know how you had anything to wear. Do we have any pictures to show?
That's the funny thing is I did not.
Tell me about your night. Tell me about your night.
Oh man, it was incredible. I just kept telling people, like, I felt like the kid in the candy store, like kid at Disney World for the first time. Obviously we've been seeing players all week throughout our show.
It's me, you, and Kat. That's such a great photo.
Yes, I told you I would have worn something better if I knew.
No, you looked awesome. Okay, so tell me about, who'd you see?
Kat and I saw a lot on the red carpet, but honestly, once the show started, it was just even crazier. Just seeing like Bill Belichick from a distance.
You're a huge Pats fan.
I am a huge Pats fan, so it was just a lot seeing him with his rings. He was flashing the rings. It was amazing. The Hall of Fame moments were super powerful, and then I thought the Josh Allen MVP moment was very touching. I thought so.
Do you think that Kuechly should have been first ballot?
Yeah, we haven't.
He's only 33. It's actually crazy.
We haven't had a first ballot in the last 2 years. So 2023 was the last time. I'm so stunned that Kuechly didn't get it. 5 first-team All-Pros, I believe. I think he's being punished for not the longevity. Which is like ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because he did the right thing for himself, which is clear.
Won a D-Roy and a D-Poy? Like, come on. I don't know what they're waiting for.
It's a little rough, but we had Emmitt Smith on our show.
Right.
Who, and who did we just have that told us about the sanctity? Oh, Dwight Freeney.
Yeah.
Said that they're trying to make it harder.
Right.
To get in. But I think he had a better case than I would have been upset if Eli got first ballot and he didn't. That would have been more upsetting. But I think that they're in general, they're trying to make it harder, and I don't hate that. I like the exclusivity of the Hall of Fame. I do think Luke should politic more. I think that's part of it. I think you should say that you want it. I think you shouldn't be like, it doesn't, you know, like, but then again, Jared Allen was like, F you, I don't care, and now he's in.
Right.
You have to wait, you know? There's some like, he should, you know, if I'm Luke, I'm like, hey, Canton, do you need me to come, like, power wash the front entrance to the Hall of Fame? Like, do you need me to, I don't know. I think that there is some, like, campaigning to be done, but he's Captain America.
Yeah.
By the way, is he off the market? Is that what we just learned here? That is huge news. Huge if true. If I put like something from Luke Kuechly on my Instagram story, like from our show, it is death, taxes, and 8 women from all walks of life. Sports girlies, not who is that? Who is that? That's huge news. If America's most eligible bachelor is taken, and now it really is Kevin Costner, who is the most eligible bachelor in America. Cal, did you think we talk about these kind of things today?
I did not, but I was prepared for anything.
You were prepared for anything. That's why you're awesome. Let's do this. My next guest, host of the Athletic Football Show. Gosh, this is really annoying me today. Hold on. Robert Mays is here. You were also at Super Bowl. I also didn't see you. Where were you hiding?
I was around the corner from you. You guys had that big old fancy set over on the left side. We were tucked behind the Toyota truck on the other side of Radio Row. So as far as Radio Row goes, we were pretty far away from each other.
What was Radio Row like? I mean, and are you a slam dunk New Orleans? I mean, you're a foodie, so I can't freaking imagine you'd have the best week ever.
It's my favorite city in America. I've long thought that. I've probably been like 7 or 8 times now. I used to go down just to do one-off Saints games when they were in the playoffs, 2017, 2018, and I just fell in love with it. I love the food. I love how the city is set up. I love how walkable it is. I love the people. Yeah. I went down there for my bachelor party 2 years ago with buddies. Like, any chance I have to spend more time there, I do. I was there for 11 days this time around. My wife and I went the weekend before.
You went the weekend before?
Yeah. We got there we got there 10 days before the game because my wife had never been.
I'm still like swollen from the sodium in this. I don't think
bad.
If you don't live there, I don't think you should be allowed to stay there for an entire week. Like, I think there should be a statute. The fact that you were there for 11 days is insane. I was there for 8, and I feel like I've been hit by a bus in the best way. I need to know the best thing you ate. Me, Giacomo's, always. Anything on the menu, my favorite. What was the best thing you ate?
Giacomo's is great. I haven't been there in a while, but I've been there before. I went to a place called Mosquito Supper Club when I was there.
Okay.
And it's like a kind of a communal dining, like family style thing where you go with a group of people, but they sit you at a communal table and everyone just kind of shares like huge plates of food. And so the first course came out and it was a plate of like pickled shrimp and fennel, like cold.
Yum.
And then there was a bowl of blue crab claws just in butter and like red pepper flakes.
Stop.
It was insane.
We have a picture of something. What was on your? Do we have a picture from his tweet or his? What is this?
Oh, that's a different meal.
Okay, what is this?
So that was a place called Queen Trini Lisa. That's a Trinidadian restaurant.
Oxtail,
and
I'm out.
I went alone, but I wanted to try everything. And so the man at the register was like, "Here are the 3 specials," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll just take all of them." He goes, "You want all that food?" I was like, "Wait, I want to try it. Like, whatever I don't finish, I'll take with me and I'll give to someone." And that's exactly what I did. And when I ordered it, they asked if they could come out and take a picture of how much food I ordered. So I wasn't sure if they were impressed or horrified by what I did. I think it was probably a little bit of both.
Do you gain weight on these trips? Like, how much weight do you think you put on? Collectively, as a sports media group, how much weight do you think everyone put on?
I would put it as a percentage. I'm assuming everyone gained like at least 3% of their body weight. So what I do on those trips is it requires a lot of management. So I walked probably like 6 or 7 miles a day when I was there, and I worked out every single day, like a 45-minute cardio of some kind.
Okay.
And so the damage I did was mitigated, but I still wasn't feeling great when I got home.
So I got there on Sunday. NFL Honors was Thursday night. I had a dress. I broke the dress. I'm not kidding, because I'm sort of I'm very petite, so I put on weight in a hurry. And New Orleans is just like there's no other way to operate. You just have to.
I brought 2 suits.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I
brought 2 suits.
I broke a dress and then wore another one. It all worked out fine, but I literally had to have a burner dress because I knew, and a tailor on standby to let stuff out, because that's New Orleans, and there should never be a Super Bowl in any other city than New Orleans, in my opinion. And there's not a close second. Do you have a close second? I was asking,
No.
I forget who yesterday. Yeah. Sorry, Niners.
I've enjoyed some of the other ones. Like I remember I had a good time at the Houston Super Bowl when it was there. But in terms of how the city is set up, the offerings that it has, like there's nothing that's even in the conversation. I mean, I think Vegas is interesting just because it is all centrally located and they are set up to do it, but it doesn't have the charm that the New Orleans one did.
I feel like
that would be fun. I think that,
I think so too.
To me, it's a matter of can the city kind of absorb the amount of people coming in and not have it feel completely ridiculous. And I think the way that New Orleans is set up, because they have so many huge events, they're able to do it. Like it's the perfect mix of a city that's small enough to get around, but a city that's ready for that influx of people.
And there just aren't that many cities like that. On Saturday afternoon, but other than that, it was a perfect experience. I love it. It's the best Super Bowl city. We'll see what since the last New Orleans Super Bowl, the only one I've missed was Bay Area. I missed that one. Should I be excited for it? No.
Sure.
Oh man.
It's too spread out. It's just too spread out.
I might go to All-Star NBA this weekend. It's in San Francisco too. Yeah, I don't like LA. LA? I'm not excited for. Sorry, LA. Like not excited for that at all. But Nashville might be fun. Okay, let's get into some of this. The 2024 season is gone. Let's talk about off-season storylines because Sam Darnold. We're going to start with Sam Darnold, free agent. We're going to get into some of these quarterback carousel roulette vibes. Do you think he's better off staying with the Vikings? Does he stay there for less money? Does he get a bigger contract for another team? What happens with Sam?
It's going to be hard, I think, for them to find a middle ground that makes sense, where they don't want to pay him for several years and have him be on the books for several years because they have a rookie quarterback contract waiting in the wings. So for him to get a deal that he's happy about and that makes sense for the Vikings, that middle ground is just tough for me. I think the Vikings are a team that has been steadfast in their plans and how they wanted to see this through. They moved on from Kirk Cousins because they were trying to get onto a rookie quarterback contract timeline where they could pay other people, they could fill out the roster with free agents. To me, the best example is they trade away all these mid-round picks last year to go and move up for Dallas Turner. Part of the justification for why you can do that, despite having holes on the interior of the offensive line, holes on the interior of the defensive line, a secondary you need to remake this offseason, is that you were going to have money to spend in free agency. If you spend $30 million on Sam Darnold this year, you no longer have that wiggle room to improve other areas of your roster. So I know it's hard to move on from a known quantity that played well to go to somebody you've never seen play in this offense. But if you've seen the way that this offense has lifted quarterbacks over the last 3 or 4 years, that's the bet that you make. You bet on Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and the infrastructure to lift up J.J. McCarthy in the same way that it was able to lift up Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I talked to Justin. He really likes Sam. It's not just a show. Like, he believes in him. I think he believes in any quarterback because he's so confident in what he can do as the best receiver. It'll be super interesting to see. You know, I'm looking for those off-season workouts. Are JJ and Justin hanging out? Are they vibing? And we'll see what happens. But the Sam, I mean, he lost himself so much money, and Justin had no answer for me. I was like, "What's your argument that he can win a big game?" It's tough. It's like a tough indictment on our guy Sam, but I wish him well. Of course, we'll see what happens to him. Other quarterback stuff going on. We caught, me and Cal here, we're listening to you, Super Bowl week. We caught a little like Matthew Stafford, good fit to Pittsburgh. What's the energy there? That would be an insane trade.
That to me feels like the best pairing. If he's going to move on, if the Rams are going to move on. We've talked about this with the Steelers for a while. They make all of these smart kind of marginal bets. That's what Russell Wilson was. If you can pay a quarterback $1 million, Russell Wilson was better than $1 million worth of quarterback last year. But by making all these kind of smaller marginal bets, they never really go that far. Like even if you total them all up, it's really incremental. I think they need to do something that feels a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more drastic to try to get the most out of this version of the roster. Either you have to break up this version of the roster by trading a TJ Watt or somebody like that to reset what you are as a franchise, or you have to do enough at quarterback to try to maximize this for one last run. And there aren't that many guys that I think you could talk yourself into fulfilling that second path, but I think Matthew Stafford, even at this stage of his career, would be a worthwhile swing for a team that's in the position that the Steelers are in.
They have 14th most cap space, just under $41 million. That's per over the cap. I would love to see Stafford and Cup be like a package deal. What about that? to Pittsburgh. What do you think?
From a football level, I actually think that does make a lot of sense.
Really?
Because they don't really have somebody that has Cooper Kupp's skill set. Think about the receivers that they have on that team. You got George Pickens, you have a vertical threat in Calvin Austin. They don't really have like an underneath slot option. So in a perfect world, if money doesn't matter and draft resources didn't matter, I would actually love to see that. Whether the Steelers could pull that off, I think, is a different question.
I'm not a draft girly. I literally am a tabula rasa, blank slate, don't know anything yet, don't know about the combine, but I've understood this is not the quarterback draft class.
That's my understanding as well. And you and I are in the same boat when it comes to the draft.
You, me, and Chris Collinsworth. Chris was like, I got, we're just trying, we're so good at NFL stuff that we just sort of, we have to compartmentalize. But it feels like, and because you have to think, like, what do the Steelers want to do? Do they want to find their rookie? It doesn't seem like it, because we're hearing that they were even looking at Trevor Lawrence this morning, right? Like, they're going to trade.
This does not seem like the draft to be looking for those guys. And I'm in the same place as you are. Like, I'm open about it. I have not. I did a show with Dane Brugler, who does the draft better than anybody, in my opinion. I did the show with Dane today to break down his latest top 100 on The Athletic. And as I was reading through the top 100, that was my introduction to like 2/3 of the players on that list. Those names had never crossed my desk before. So I'm coming into this very much in the same way that you are. And in talking to him about the quarterbacks, it was funny watching the movement he had with some other players after his last big board in November. The quarterbacks did not move. And I think that was really telling. I think he's trying to prevent himself from talking himself into these guys. Oh, if you squint, maybe he is a top 10 pick. I just don't think he wants to do that with this group, because they're not worth doing that for. And the Steelers, there's probably a little bit of scar tissue from the last time they did this. The last quarterback draft that felt like this was the Kenny Pickett draft. They took a guy in the 20s that maybe wasn't worth taking in the first round because there weren't any other options, and look how that turned out for them. So I think that's another one of those marginal moves that probably won't move the needle for a team that desperately needs to move the needle at that position.
And is Stafford enough is the question. They get Stafford. I don't know. That's why I kind of threw the Cup in there, because I do think that they need more than just a quarterback. They've got plenty of holes to fill, especially in that division. He is Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. We're going to take a TV break, but we're going to talk through it, because that's what we do on the program. And we'll get this content out live, of course, on YouTube, and we'll post it on Twitter and everywhere to get these takes out. Even though we get all your takes on your amazing show. If Stafford winds up in Pittsburgh, where does Russell Wilson go? I have been saying Vegas. I've just been hearing Vegas. It's kind of almost too cute to put him in Vegas. What do you think?
I think that makes sense, because if you're the Raiders, I think I would want to spend not a lot on a quarterback this year and just kick the can until next year. And I think that Russell Wilson is a very good option for that. He knows Pete Carroll. He's not going to cost you a lot. So a stopgap option like that for a team that's in the Raiders' position, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Is there this Trevor Lawrence thing I was not ready for this morning. So like, what do you feel like there's some crazy, like not talked about quarterback trade in the works potentially this year?
I mean, that one potentially makes sense if you are having real buyer's remorse. If you're the Jags, you have a new front office, you have a new coaching staff. And I actually misread some of the contract details this morning. If they trade him before March 22nd, it's only $30 million in dead money for the Jaguars.
Just $30 million.
That's $30 million is not that bad for a single year of dead money. He would count $17 million against the cap if he's on the roster. So you would at least be able to field the team if you moved on from him. This is different than the Justin Herbert conversation from last year, where people were like, oh, would they trade Justin Herbert? They couldn't trade him. Like, there was no financial reality where that was possible. For the Jags, you could potentially do it. And so if you just wanted a really hard reset, it's potentially in the cards. I would be surprised by that. I think that Trevor Lawrence and the way that his contract is structured over the next 3 or 4 years, the cap hits are pretty manageable based on how they've built the deal. He's a young quarterback. I think that the circumstances he'll be in Liam Cohen's offense are probably better than any of the circumstances he's been to this point. I feel like you're going to be hard-pressed to improve or build. Like, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to improve on what Trevor Lawrence is for you right now, given his age, given the trajectory, everything else, and what's available at quarterback. Like, what are you going to do if Trevor Lawrence isn't your quarterback if you're the Jags?
Gosh, we'll see what happens. It's the offseason, so it's time for Aaron Rodgers to shine. This is his world. Loves the offseason headlines. And this is the latest. We have informed Aaron Rodgers we will be moving in a different direction at quarterback. This is a tweet this morning. I had not seen this. let's start with what the market is for Rodgers.
It's going to be one of those teams that just needs a short-term answer at quarterback. I mean, if you're Tennessee, right, and you don't want to take a quarterback at 1, but you want to be a little bit more competitive this year, is he somebody that makes sense?
Does he want to go there?
I don't know how robust his market's going to be.
Okay.
I mean, he may not be picking between a bunch of different suitors given how last season went. But I think there's probably going to be some team out there that says, for 2025, he's the best that we can do. I don't think you want to commit to him for much longer than that. But as a stopgap option, I think that he's still probably got enough left in the tank to justify it.
Don't you think he would just walk away at that point? Like if we're thinking about it from Aaron's lens, right? Like where do you want to end your career? What kind of a situation? Like obviously he thought the Jets would be a contender. The Titans certainly not a contender, even if they get Aaron Rodgers, right? So I don't think stopgap is the energy that he would want to bring into 2025 in his 41st, year on earth, 20 whatever at quarterback. Is there a world where I don't know, like I'm thinking of just like a contender. Like I've been, Niners is a thing. Have you heard this?
That to me seems not realistic. Like everything that they've said publicly, and they've been emphatic about how much they like Brock Purdy. I think this is going to be about figuring out the right price for Brock Purdy. I don't think this is going to be about seeking out another quarterback. And even if they can't come to some sort of resolution on the deal, he's still under contract for this year. Like Brock Purdy is going to be on the 49ers this year. So that one would surprise me. And the idea of him walking away, I totally get that. Now it becomes a question if you're Aaron Rodgers with, do you want that to be your last act in the NFL? Do you want the Jets publicly kicking you out the door to be the last thing that happens in your NFL career? Part of me thinks even if the circumstances are less than ideal in a place like Cleveland or Tennessee, wherever, he would want to try one more shot just to have the taste, whatever that taste from last year with the Jets, to get that out of his mouth before he moved on.
It'd be super fascinating. He'll dominate the headlines yet again. Are you happy with what I'm doing with the Packers? I know you're a Bears guy. I mean, I work in the front office. I'm bringing Devontae back. Keyshawn Nixon's helping me. I'm trying to get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. Like, are you happy with my work so far with the Packers?
I support it. I think if you look at that roster, they've done a really good job of building a solid group of players. That's a great move. It's a great start.
Thanks.
I think them and Buffalo, I kind of think of in similar ways, where if you look at the roster in totality, it's like, oh, that was a good bet. That was a good bet. That's a solid player. But if you think about the amount of difference makers they have compared to the elite teams in the league, there is a little bit of a gap. And so trying to do something this offseason when we can really put ourselves over the top, I think in both places, that's a worthwhile pursuit.
Adams to the Packers.
I love it. I totally support that.
I'm cooking on it. Hey, there's a Blink-182 concert at the Hollywood Palladium tonight. Should I go?
Yeah, if you can.
Okay.
The Palladium's a great venue. I fully support that.
Done. I'll be there. Take a look and watch and listen wherever you get your anything to the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Rob.